Howdy, howdy, and welcome back to another Workshop Wednesday. This week's edition is a Getting Started edition. That means it's a very basic topic for those of you who are new. In this case, we're going to talk about server-side tagging, kind of what it is and how it relates to Tag Manager, because of course Tag Manager has server-side options as well. Before we go too far into this, welcome if this is your first workshop. My name is Chris Mercer. Everybody calls me Mercer. You should as well. I'm the co-founder of measurementmarketing.io. Whether you found us through the podcast and talks that we do, maybe through some of the content we share with some other platforms like CXL Institute, Digital Marketer, Measure Summit, Social Media Examiner, however you heard us, welcome. Even if you're already a member over at measurementmarketing.io, especially if you're already a member over at measurementmarketing.io, welcome. We're happy that you're here. It's our job to help people like you learn how to use all these cool tools so that you can actually improve marketing results. And if we do that, how we teach this actually is with the Measurement Marketing Academy. It's our flagship training program, and we will talk about that at the end of today's content. First, though, one thing. What's the one new idea, one new topic, one new thing you can actually take advantage of and practice? So that's what you're looking for, right? One new thing. All right, so let's go ahead and tackle this week's topic. Getting started. What is server-side Google Tag Manager, and do you need this thing now? All right, let's go ahead and dive right into this. We, of course, always start with the framework because the measurement framework is more important than the tools of measurement. I promise you. Simplify your measurement system. How do you do it? You plan, you build, and then you launch it and actually use it. So all marketers are starting off in the blind. We're trying to get to a point where we, just using a system, we produce revenue and results. So we plan, we build, we launch. The keys to each step are very important. And of course, the tools are as well. So the plan, we ask the questions. We then figure out what information we need to collect to get answers to those questions. Server side will probably come into this. It can help you with some of this stuff. Then, of course, you think about the actions you're going to take based upon the answers you get. Then it's all about the build, right? What results are we measuring for? What traffic is actually coming in? And is that stitched together in a way that tells a natural story? Server side definitely comes into play with your build because as you go through your implementation, you might be using a basic setup. You may come back later, add on this server side layer to get better quality data. Now more than ever, that's pretty important. Now, once you've got your story back there, it's just listening to your story. So you listen to the trends and patterns that are back there. Based on that, you can then start to forecast, based on your recent past, you can forecast your near future, and then you measure against your forecast so you know what's working and what's not. That's how you know what to optimize and where to focus your resources. And of course, that is the measurement marketing framework in a nutshell. All right, now we're going to go ahead and dive in and talk a little bit more about this server side stuff. I figured we'd kind of do like here's what's probably happening now, and obviously your setup might be slightly different, but hopefully the basics kind of come into play here and you get what we're talking about. So when your user, a little user icon over here, when your user loads up their browser window, the browser loads up a bunch of scripts, right? These are the different things, whether maybe you're using Tag Manager already and Tag Manager is doing it for you. Maybe you're using a plugin. Maybe it's a built-in integration. But whatever it is, you got these little scripts that are being loaded, and the scripts do something like, go tell Facebook somebody just landed on the page. Or the script might be, go tell Google Analytics somebody just landed on the page, right? Depending on the page, there may be additional scripts. Things like, go tell Facebook that a lead just occurred, or go tell Facebook a purchase just occurred. Also, go tell Google Analytics a purchase just occurred. And that's all coming from something called client side. So client side means the user's browser on their computer. Okay, so this whole thing would be client side. But what's really happening is where is the browser, which is on the user's computer? Okay, so the browser is on the user's computer here. Where does the browser, how does it know what to display? Like if you think about what we're doing right now, I'm on Lucidcharts and I'm using Lucidchart. Well, how does the browser, I'm using Chrome right now, how does Chrome know what to put in here? Well, it gets all of its direction from the server. And in this case of our little example here, when your user comes to your site using their browser on what they call client side, remember this is all client side, the browser actually has to go ping your server, and then your server sends back the information to display, including these little scripts. So it sends back the script somehow, right? Or could be sending back the script. I'm gonna say that, but it comes with like maybe tag managers doing it, whatever. But the spirit of this is the same. The server is sending the little script information, then the browser send it over to Facebook and Google Analytics, et cetera, et cetera. That's sort of how the whole thing happens. It's what they call client side because again, it's on the user's side. Right? That's what it is. So your users that are coming to your website, them loading up their browser. Whenever you hear anybody say client side, it just means that the browser itself is doing it, which is just a shorthand of thinking it's happening on their computer's end, right? Their side, not server side, which is on your end, where in this case, like your hosting company, right? Wherever you're hosting your website. So that's kind of the generic way that the world works when it comes to the internet, right? So browsers load up. They have to obviously know what to build and what colors to put where and all this other stuff that goes on. They get those instructions from the server, from wherever your site is hosted, and then your server sends that information to the browser. The browser renders it so it looks nice, and then of course does whatever it needs to do based upon whatever it's being told. That's it, right? Pretty cut and dry. Now, how does this relate to tag managers? Let's bring over tag manager. So we know the user, right? The user's using the browser. This is our little icon for the browser. Chrome, Safari, doesn't matter, right? So the browser is happening here. The browser, as part of the instructions, is loading up, let's say, tag manager. So hopefully that's what you're using for measurement. So you've got tag manager coming into play, and then tag manager puts back onto the browser, technically, all these little tags, right? These little scripts of a page view occurred, or a lead occurred, or a purchase occurred. And then it sends those information based upon what you're telling tag manager. Again, not talking about how to use tag manager, but this is what's going on. You tell tag manager, oh, when a page view occurs, go tell my analytics platforms, go tell my ad platforms. When a lead occurs, go tell these ad platforms or these analytics platforms. When a purchase event occurs, go tell these platforms or these analytics platforms, and everything gets stored there. Okay, so that's sort of how tag manager is overlaid. So the browser loads up tag manager then comes into play and starts pushing stuff through. Again, all client side because it's all happening in the browser itself, right? So remember in the Chrome browser, Opera browser, whatever you're using. So that's how that works. Now, how does it relate to this whole server thing? Remember what we talked about. Where does the browser get its information of what to load in the first place? Well, it gets it from your company, right? You do that. Technically, probably not you that's actually having a server in a closet somewhere, unless you're a large organization, in which case it is that. Most small businesses are hosting their servers. So it's your hosting company, right? Pings your hosting company sends the details. And whenever you're working, let's say a WordPress site or something like that, that's happening here. You change your WordPress site, it changes on the server. Then when that user comes down and that browser says, oh, what's the new update? It'll send the new update, and that's how it displays. Now, if it's Shopify, it's Shopify servers, right? They're doing that. So when you change things for your Shopify store, that's happening on Shopify servers, but the same thing applies, right? You're just hosting it with them. So they change it, and then whenever the user comes to your store to see your brand new product that you just published, the browser goes to the server sends back the information the browser needs to see. The browser, the client side, then does tag manager and does its own little thing. So what's this whole server side bit, and why do we need that, or why might you need it? So server side is it adds a little complexity to a measurement system because it's a whole other set of servers, right? It's a whole other thing. It's servers hosted in the cloud, so you have to do it. You can do it however you want, typically with a cloud server, but most likely through Google. It's just the easiest way to do it. So you would host it on Google servers, but essentially what happens is think about it like a measurement server. So it's a server, a set of computers that are there just to record measurement information. So what starts to happen, and the way I'm going to kind of build this in phases so that hopefully we can kind of wrap our heads around this together. So the web version of Tag Manager still kicks off, right? Still does its thing with the browser, so the browser renders the server sends the stuff over. Part of that is Tag Manager script and container code, right? So then the browser loads it up, Tag Manager is now activated. But instead of Tag Manager doing all of the things web-based and sending them all through here, Tag Manager does something a little different where I'm just going to kind of do a little disconnect here. So we're going to say these go kind of gray to symbolize that they're no longer there, right? So that's kind of what we're doing. They kind of go gray. Instead, Tag Manager essentially web-based pings the server, and it sends everything to the server now. So it's your measurement server. Your part of this is very important, and I'll explain why in just a moment. So now your server, so instead of your server, your hosting server, right, your main server sends back to the browser. goes the tag manager. Tag manager starts measuring stuff. It then sends everything to a different server. In this case, your measurement server. It is just for measurement. That's all the server does, right? That's it. And you would install Tag Manager here. This is why they call it server side. So there's two tag managers. There's the web-based one, which is client side tag manager, right? The one that loads up on your browser, or the user's browser in this case. And then there's the server side one, the one that's actually sitting here in the server in the cloud, running your measurement server. So we've got Tag Manager web-based, sends information to server-side Tag Manager, and then server-side Tag Manager does its thing and says, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and, let me grab my little king here. There we go. So then it sends a page view over there. That didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. Sometimes Lucidchart is with me, sometimes it's not. But you get the idea. Server side actually comes through and then connects the dots. So, boy, this is going to annoy me now that I did that. Let me just get rid of this real quick. There we go. Okay. So the idea here is that these, right, now get connected to this. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a few quick adjustments so you can kind of get the idea here. And then we'll bring back a little bit of color so you can see it. Hopefully this will make sense to you. I'm just going to say this is, let's do a different color here. Let's do blue. Okay. So we will say, come on, there we go. Blue. All right, perfect. So now we can see, okay, so there's our tag manager. Didn't quite do what I wanted to do, but I think you get the idea. Let me just pull this up and out. Okay. There we go. So web tag manager goes to server side. Server side then sends what it needs to send over to these, page view, lead, event, purchase. They're all coming now from the server, and then it sends it to, the platforms, whatever it needs to do, right? So the server says, send this to Facebook. The server says, send this to Google Analytics. The server says, send this to GA4. The server says, send this to Google Ads, right? But it's your measurement server that's in charge. So far, so good. But all we've really did with this particular setup, all we really did was complicate things in a way, right? So it's like, well, we're kind of doing the same thing we were already doing web-based, so why would we need server-side? Now, if you are just trying to basically do the web-based stuff, like maybe you don't, because remember, server-side, you have a whole set of servers. Servers mean money. Roughly figure $100 US, roughly, for a setup. Just kind of budget it like that. It does cost money. So already some of you might be like, it's not worth spending $100 for this. Totally get that, right? It may not be for you. But it just sort of duplicates what was already there with web. And so maybe you don't need it for that. The real power of this, and some of the power of this, I should say, I'm going to talk about some of the benefits. One of the biggest benefits is on server side, you have more control of the data because the data you have in the browser window, it's technically the user's browser, right? It's the user's browser. They have control over what that browser is doing or not doing. There's extensions. There's different types of browsers. They all work differently. Like Safari stops cookies after 7 days, right? And that sort of thing. So you have all this issue that happens. So what do you do, right? So how do you change that? The answer is you can't if you use web-based. You just can't. However, when you control the data on your server, you can adjust things, right? You can switch things around. You can clean the data up. You can process things in different ways. And it's a little more complicated to do that than we have time for on this particular workshop. But if you just do web-based, you really don't have a whole lot of opportunity to do that, right? You just don't. It's not made to do that because you don't control the data that's coming in from the browser and the user. Server side, you absolutely can control that. You have a lot more control over the data. The other thing, and I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit so you can see the difference. Look at this. The server is under, you can create the domain for the server, right? You create the domain for the server. The important thing is now it's mysite.com is what they're loading, right? Your browser. And then you do like a subdomain is basically what it looks like. So it'd be like measure.mysite.com or something like that. So when you do this, the real key here is mysite.com, mysite.com. It's the same domain. So what this means is first-party cookies. It's first-party data. That's what the data control thing is so important for, especially in the world of privacy and and just kind of what's going on with data. You have to be able to control your data. You have to be able to get rid of it if you're not supposed to have it anymore. You've got to be able to make sure it's clean data, because the data that you have is going to get less and less as time goes on. That will just continue. Things will get harder to measure, not easier. You will have less data, not more, in the future. Like, that's just what's going to happen. So you have to evolve your tool set to do that. It takes resources, takes money, takes possibly developers, takes a whole lot of planning and thought to run a measurement server. But it is a whole other level of granular control over your data. So huge, huge, huge pro. Lots of control over your data, and it's first-party cookies, right? So you can do all sorts of, just the idea of being able to measure user journeys and things like that becomes so much easier because it's your data. You're not relying on third-party data. Remember all this third-party cookie stuff you hear about? Like in 2023, Chrome was going to get rid of third-party cookies. Safari did it years ago, right? Mozilla, browser, they all got rid of that stuff. And you lose measurement connection between things without third-party cookies. But that's okay. Like, third-party cookies need to go away. People have abused those, right? Facebook, we're looking at you. So let's get rid of that stuff. We don't need 1,000 other people looking at eyeballs for our users. That's not important, right? It really isn't. So, but we do need control over that data. Hence first party, and you can set it up under your domain. So it is, right? Again, it doesn't quite make sense. You can Google that. Just sort of know that this is true. You have a lot more control over your data, but it takes some resources. The other huge benefit of this is what if you have like a rebill, some user action that's not happening in the client side. So remember, the client side means the browser window. So now if they buy a product, you're going to know about that because the browser window is rendering that purchase. But let's say it's a membership like our Academy is. Well, when the rebill happens, it's not like the browser logs into a page and causes a rebill to occur. That happens in the back end. So you can actually set stuff up so that different servers, not just your hosting server itself, right? But maybe I have I'm just going to do this as an example. There we go. Pull this off to the side. Maybe I have, let me zoom in a little bit. So I have Infusionsoft. I'm going to say this is our CRM, right? So maybe you've got your CRM and or your cart system. So I'm just going to put in both. So CRM or your cart system. And we're going to take this out. So that's it. So it's a CRM or cart, whatever the third party is that you're using, right? Your CRM, your cart system. Well, they have information. Your cart's rebilling, credit cards are being purchased, right? All this other stuff is going on. Credit cards are being billed. All this other stuff's going on. It's not connected to your analytics platforms at all. Let me zoom back out here. So it's not connected to your analytics platforms at all because there is no connection between all that stuff that's going to be going on with your cart. Enter your measurement server. So again, I'm going to have a problem. I didn't realize I was grouping these and that was going to cause an issue. There we go. Sort of something like this. So this connects in to the server. So you've got multiple points that are coming through to the server. Technically, you could even do this, where you could have your own server connect directly to the server and send hits. That way, if there is no signal coming through the browser, or technically a behavior that's not measured by the browser but by the server, because sometimes the servers are just a better deal for that, you can send it to the measurement server, right? So you can have all of this stuff. Measurement server gives you a lot more control and expands your possibilities. Now, a word of warning and a cautionary note here. There are individuals who will see this and they will go, oh, well, if I can bypass, let's say they use Brave, the user's using Brave, or maybe they have an ad blocker, and the ad blocker kicks out Tag Manager because it doesn't load Tag Manager. Maybe the ad blocker does that, or Brave as a browser, right? There's all sort of, Vivaldi, I think, is a new one that I heard recently that is doing that stuff now. So and this, again, this is the world. We have less to measure. Next month, there will be less measurable users. Next year, much less measurable users. That trend is going to continue for a long, long time. So if that's happening, there'll be a lot of people who will look at the server side thing and say, well, I can measure them with my server and send the server directly here. But if you do not have consent to do that, right? If you do not have the consent to actually measure them, don't measure them, right? Depending upon obviously where you are in terms of laws, because that's all over the place as well, way beyond the scope of this training. But if you're in an area, industry, part of the world, where you absolutely legally have to get consent before you record data, do that. Please do that. Save yourself time, effort, energy, and hassle. Don't try to shortcut it. Don't do it behind the scenes. It's not going to be a good thing for you. You're going to be playing a cat and mouse game with measurement, and it's a pain, and you don't want to do that. Respect the user's privacy. Respect their choice and consent. So assuming that you've got all that, you can absolutely record it in server side as well, right? So again, cautionary note: don't use this as a way to bypass, user privacy. It's not for that, and that's just going to end in trouble for everybody. So don't worry about it. Don't even try that. But you may want to start looking at a measurement server option if you need first party data control. If you need different servers that are all pinging the server, so now you've got everything kind of combined, all these different data sources. And the beauty of this, why you might want to do this, is because we are in a world where less people are being measured. That means sample sizes go down. You're not going to be able to see all the different behaviors that you might want to see. So the behaviors you do see, make them higher quality. Right? Make a higher quality data set, and then you can still get trends and patterns from that. And that's the whole point, right? When you're measuring for behaviors. So you want to get your trends and patterns from that, and you can send them over to your ad platforms or whatever else. You send those higher quality data sets. You can combine this with other data sets. So imagine, for example, a Facebook purchase comes down, and then the rebill from the carts are coming down. And now because the cart rebills, you're able to tell Facebook a true LTV of what your users are. Not just what Facebook saw because of its pixel, but because you're getting information from other places. It's just an example. Well, if it understood a true LTV, because it has higher quality data set, can actually find a better quality audience from you because it has more data to know what a better quality audience person is. Right? So hopefully that makes sense. But that's the idea. Take some time to do this. Take some time to wrap your head around. But it's super important. Now, let's talk about an alternative, because Tag Manager server side takes resources, takes energy, takes money, takes a team. And a lot of planning. This is not something you would do solo. And there are and will be more and more and more third-party services almost every day at this point that are coming out that'll try to solve this problem without you having to jump into server-side Tag Manager, because it can be a little complicated. So let's go back here. We've got a little browser. We know that the browser itself is getting all the information from the server, and all that stuff happens. This is just the normal how the web works, right? So that stuff always stays intact. So client side fires Tag Manager, everything else is going through. You maybe want to take advantage of some of this control, especially the higher quality. If you perked up when you're like, I want my ad platform to have higher quality data. I want my analytics platform to have higher quality data, but I definitely want my ad platform to do it. I want Facebook to build better audiences, or Google Ads, or whatever it is that you're sending to. Well, in that case, there are other options that kind of do this in a limited way. There are some third-party options that are out there. Again, depending upon your platform. But for example, if you have a Shopify store, Shopify uses something specific to an ad platform. Facebook, as an example, uses this thing called CAPI, Conversions API. And Shopify, their server, in this case, let's pretend it's a Shopify store, their server actually will send directly to Facebook. And then when they buy again, they send directly to Facebook. And they buy again, they send directly to Facebook. So it is already kind of server side, but it's really just for Facebook and Shopify, and that's really it. What if you have a WordPress site? Can you do this? Well, a WordPress site, a little harder, but not that hard. There are platforms that are out, or tools that are out there. Pixel Your Site is a very popular one. So we're not affiliated with this one at all. We haven't used it ourselves because we just have the resources for measurement, so we handle that on our own. But if you install this plugin, right, Pixel Your Site, there's free versions, there's pro versions of it. It will actually do that. So if you have like a WooCommerce store or something, it then is on your server. It actually resides on your server, but you're using a third-party service for your server, and then your server will then ping the ad platform with a better quality data set. So you don't have to use Tag Manager server side. Because remember, I just want to caution you, it's a lot of effort to do this. It's a lot of thought to do this. And you just need to think a little differently, a little slower when it comes to measurement, and you should have a better plan for that. So eventually, will you use Tag Manager server side? The answer is, probably with time. I think eventually you will. If something is a skill that you will want to get into. I personally use it on ours, and we're easing our way into it as we go. It's not for any other reason other than we think eventually we're going to need it just for a higher quality data set. so we can maintain our trends and patterns. But to be very honest, most of the stuff we're doing is just still client side. It's okay. And part of this is because we want to prove the point. Like, you don't have to measure every single person in the world. God, you just never did. You just need to measure enough, right? People that are okay to be measured, and the stuff that you do have, you can still do a lot with. But eventually, yeah, I think we're going to be on server side. Again, we have the effort. We got the resources. We've got our team. I mean, it's what we do. So of course we're going to do that. However, if I did not teach measurement, I would probably look at this first. I would look at some sort of third-party service plugin or something like that, install it on my site, and have that connect directly to the platform that I was most concerned about getting information. And then level it up and from there. And eventually, maybe I would look at server side, right? I don't know if I would ever look at server side if I was just a typical small business Shopify store or something like that, because Shopify probably handles all that stuff. WordPress has got plugins like Pixel Your Site that do that stuff. So maybe I don't have to worry about it. So that's sort of how to think about it. Do you need server side? You probably need some server side measurement, right? Where the servers are pinging each other, because you will eventually need that no matter what, I think. But do you need tag manager server side? Do you need to run your own measurement server? And whenever you think tag manager server side, that's what you're saying. You're saying we're going to run our own measurement server. Well, by default, when you say things like, I'm going to run my own measurement server, think about what that means. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes with running a measurement server. You need to think differently about it, right? If you say, I just want to use server-side measurement, right? I want the servers connecting to servers in the back end because I want to be able to measure for rebills and things like that. I want Facebook to know if a rebill occurred so it can have a proper, useful truth when it comes to like LTV and targeting building the right lookalike audiences or whatever you want to do with Facebook or Google Ads or whatever the platform of choice is. You can definitely do that. You don't even need Tag Manager. Right? Tag Manager is not a requirement, but you can absolutely do server side. You just got to think about these other platforms, right? Like again, Pixel Your Site Pro or Pixel Your Site. And then other maybe integrations of platforms you're using already do that, right? Some will. So that's how you can actually think about it. Technically, for those of you who are a little more advanced, if you've ever heard of measurement protocol in Google Analytics, that's all that is. Measurement protocol is you could use a server to then ping Google Analytics and say, oh, this rebill just occurred, right? So that's what it's like. It's all the behind the scenes stuff where you don't need a browser window to actually have anything happen to measure stuff. That's all that server side means. It just means the servers going directly to the platform. It doesn't need the browser as an intermediary. So again, anything with the browser window that the user's using is what they call client side, because it's on the client, the user's side. Anything that's on your server, right, or servers that you control, are server side, right? The kind of behind the scenes connection. And the server side is really useful, but it's got to be, especially for data set. I think it's good for really good, clean data and being able to change data, be able to control the data. I think there's huge pluses with that. But tiptoe into this world because it can get really complicated really, really fast. So baby steps. Start with maybe a third-party service, just kind of get used to that. And then eventually, when the time's right for you, especially when it comes to resources, money, right, the amount of time you can go put into learning this, then server side as you go through. And of course, we've got the Win Google Tag Manager server side back there if you are already an Academy member. All right, so with that, what was your one thing? Hopefully it was just wrapping your head a little bit or more around what server side is, what it isn't, what you should be doing with it, what you should definitely not be doing with it. Remember, when it comes to data privacy, data consent, all that sort of stuff, just respect the user's wishes. Let's not make a big game out of this. It's not important that you measure every single person anyway. All you need to do is measure enough to get your trends and patterns down. Once you have those, they pretty much will be, they stay intact and you can actually make some real insights happen. And that's the idea, is don't have a perfect, quote unquote, accurate version of the truth. I hate that word accuracy. I always call it the A word because it doesn't exist. But you just want a useful truth, which is you get your main trends and patterns down. That will allow you to measure against your forecast. Did it work? Are my trends and patterns what I thought my trends and patterns were going to be? Was this conversion rate what I thought the conversion rate was going to be? Did it fall within range? And if it did, awesome. Let's go get more traffic. If it didn't, let's go look and see what we can do to improve it. So that's how that whole thing works. Now, when it comes to the framework, remember, Tag Manager server side is really in here with the tools for sure. You never start with server side. Just don't even think about it unless you're really advanced. In this case, you're probably not watching this workshop because this is a getting started workshop. So you would never start with Tag Manager server side. Start with Analytics, get that in place. Then you maybe add Tag Manager, get that in place, right? And so now you've got, eventually you move to maybe third-party platforms that are doing more server-side stuff, like Pixel Your Site, or just using integrations that might be available to you. Then you improve your build again with something like Tag Manager server-side as you go through the framework over and over again, because maybe you're asking, questions like, how can I get Facebook to have a better quality lookalike audience? And you improve your thing. So every time you go through the framework, which you go through over and over and over again, you improve your measurement muscle. You get better and better at this. You get better at using tools. And that's, again, sort of an idea of how server-side itself actually can fit in. Now, next week's workshop is a Beyond Basics workshop. We will actually be showing you how to set up Google Tag Manager server-side. Surprisingly, not that hard to set up, right? The setup part's pretty simple. So we will show that to you, but it's server-side, which already means it's Beyond Basics no matter what. So we'll talk about how to set up Google Tag Manager server-side next week's workshop. If you are interested in that, just subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. Coming up on 4,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for that, and everybody for leaving all the kind comments. We definitely read them all. Thank you for leaving those. And again, any suggestions on topics, stuff like that, pop in the comments. We see them, and we definitely are doing that as we build out the Workshop Wednesday curriculums for the rest of 2022. The other way that you can get this is the Measurement Marketing Toolbox. If you're already a free Toolbox member, you already know this. You get access to the most recent Workshop Wednesday no matter what, but you also get access to a bunch of tools, including things like the GTM cookbook. So if you are using Tag Manager, want to do some cool things with it, it's back there. We've got a JavaScript, a custom JavaScript cookbook that's back there. You can pull some stuff from. This is not an exhaustive list of the tools. There is, I kid you not, like at least 40 tools that are back there. There's a lot of stuff we give away for free just to help build the community. The only thing is that we ask you use it. That's it. So, kick it around, practice it, use it to your heart's content, just use it. If you don't need it anymore, we're going to ask you to kind of make room for somebody else, which is fine, totally fine, but get back there. It's completely free for you. Measure.tips/WW, just enter your name and email, and it'll create the account for you. Send you out a password so you can get access to everything. Again, just our way of giving back, helping to build the community. That said, it is that time. Let's talk about the Measurement Marketing Academy. It is, of course, our flagship training program. We built the Academy for one reason only, and that is to help you get through the measurement marketing framework over and over and over again at the various stages. We talk about there, and then you first start out, you're just learning this stuff. And so you can only do so much with measurement. Then you get through the framework, you build a little measurement muscle. Then you're going to come back through the framework again, build it again and again and again and again. And it keeps going like that. The Academy is there to help you to do that every step of the way, every time you go through the framework. A really quick tour of what the framework looks like, or not the framework, but the Academy itself. So when you come in, you will see these 6 core blocks that are here as an Academy member. Of course, we always have the latest updates each week that will come through here with some of the highlights of what's important as an Academy member for you. So you always have that. The main content is the courses, the workshops, and of course, the toolbox. So the courses, they look like this. They're all organized by date because they are updated typically every 4 to 6 weeks. We are doing an update to an existing course or a brand new course. You can see everything that is back here. There's an absolute ton organized by date, because as an Academy member, like, you don't want to be back here watching courses all day long. But if it's been a month or two and you want to come in and see the latest one that's done, very easy way to do that. Of course, they're organized by topic as well. So you can see all the Google Analytics stuff, including GA4. We've got the Tag Manager stuff, including server side. We've got Data Studio in the dashboarding section, including the Beyond Basics that's here of Data Studio. And of course, what my personal favorite is the strategy stuff. How do you plan? How do you forecast? How do you optimize? The thinking behind this thing called measurement is almost, actually, that's not true. It is more important than actually learning a tool like Google Analytics. Because if you don't know the thinking behind why you even want to use a tool like Google Analytics, what's the point, right? So measurement strategy is also back here as well. So that's the courses. To show you what they look like as an example, here's your measurement plan. When we talk about building out a measurement plan, you come into it, and this is what most of the courses are basically following, same sort of idea. You have the main lesson, and each of these is videos. So you have the different videos for the different topics. Here's the next lesson with their topics. So you can see how much is back here as you go through and learn and practice and grow. And of course, there are ways to get help as you need help, which you will, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So you've got the win courses, right? They're standard courses that most people are looking for. And if you think about how many courses are back there, it's all the analytics, all the Tag Manager, all the different levels of those, Data Studio, strategy, and more. Like we had all sorts of stuff. We just recently came out with Sheets. We're going to be doing, things like BigQuery and, things like that. So there's always new things that are coming out or being updated just in the Win courses themselves. Next up is the on-demand workshops. On-demand workshops look like this. You always have the most recent Workshop Wednesday back there for you. And you can see those broken down. So they're organized by date. You can get caught up on all the What's New workshops as an Academy member. You can get caught up on all the Getting Started workshops as an Academy member, the Beyond Basics. These have all been edited down. They obviously don't have things like the Academy tours and stuff like that in there. But it's a really good way to get caught up, and it is entirely searchable. So you can go in here, type in whatever the thing you're looking for. It'll search the entire database of all the on-demand trainings that cover that topic, as well as the different lessons that cover that topic in the Win courses themselves. So you have access to all of that. Again, Win courses and the on-demand workshops, just in terms of the content. 24/7, access whenever you need it. It is there for you. The toolbox is our final bit of content. So the toolbox itself has all of the tools that we have access to. So you can copy these, create these. We create them for our members to make things easier. A lot of these are referenced in the Win courses as well. But the Academy member also gives you access to the Get It Done guide. So things like Eyes on the Journey, which is a pretty popular report that we are very famous for at this point. That kind of shows you deep dive into how the behaviors that are happening on the pages. There's a big little video series on this. It's one of these things where a Get It Done guide is perfect if the topic itself is not big enough for a Win course, but it is bigger than just what one workshop should cover. That's what we do, the Get It Done guide. So it's kind of like our little middle ground. And this system, the reason that we do this with the Win courses, the demand workshops, and the toolbox, including the Get It Done guides, is because somehow when something changes in measurement, which happens all the time, we're able to get you updates fairly quickly. So you can always stay up to date and take advantage before anybody else can. Well, which is kind of why we do this for our members. So those are the main content sections. Now, I mentioned earlier, you're going to need help with this stuff. We definitely need to get help with this stuff because this stuff is complicated, because it's sometimes really useful to talk to people about this stuff. So there's a couple ways you can get help. One is the Winner Circle. So that is kind of the community helping the community, right? Peer-to-peer stuff coming through. So you can see people, the break room sort of mention stuff where people are from or whatever. In this case, for social media marketing world and having conversations around that. But they're broken down by different topics. And this is a chance for members to help other members. Sometimes we don't have the skills to answer the questions because it's not our topic of expertise. For example, if somebody asks us something about technical SEO, well, we're not technical SEO experts, but there are definitely members in the Measurement Marketing Academy who are. They're agency owners who are. And so they can help answer those questions. Maybe you're a platform expert when it comes to Google Ads. Maybe you can help somebody answer Google Ads questions, or maybe it's a builder platform or something like that, WooCommerce or whatever, right? So Shopify. And so it's like people can help each other back there, but they're all speaking a unified language, which is measurement marketing. It's one thing everybody has in common. So peers helping peers. It's a super, super cool group and a really good spot to build networks, etc. The other place to get help, and this is, to be honest, what most people use, is the Ask an Instructor support system. So Ask an Instructor support's pretty easy to access. You get into there, you ask your question, pop in your question, the details. What we really, really love are screenshots and videos in this section. So you send us over a link to a video that's kind of a full screen video that walks us through what your issue is, what your question is. It doesn't matter if it's a strategy question or a tactical sort of like, how do I get this goal to work in Tag Manager question? It does not matter. Send us over anything that you want us to take a look at from a measurement perspective. We will be able to get you unstuck and moving forward. That's the idea. And our job as instructors is to help teach you, to build you muscle. So yes, we will sometimes give you an answer, but mostly it's to help you to find the answer and leave you so that you learn these skills as an organization, right? Within your own organization. That's what the Ask Instructor support is for. And it's the closest thing to essentially a quote unquote private conversation between your side and our side, right? The instructor team and then your side of things. So that sometimes I realize putting things into the Winner Circle might not be important, something you can do because you don't want to share maybe client data or something, but you can certainly have a behind the scenes conversation with the instructors back here in the Ask Instructor support system. And of course, all of your answers are recorded, so you can have those and mark them as favorites or whatever else. It's a really incredible system, and we built this entire academy again to help you. It's not that you're going to come in here and watch all the videos, because we create content faster than you can watch it, but it is a just-in-time learning platform. So you can come through when you have a question. There will be some way that you can get unstuck and moving forward. Maybe it's a course. Maybe it's a workshop. Maybe it's a Get It Done guide. Maybe it's a Winner Circle question that you can help answer or get an answer to. Or it's Ask Instructor support. And 9 times out of 10, if you send over videos and screenshots, we send over videos and screenshots. So it's an absolute incredible platform to be a part of. Obviously, would encourage you to be a part of that as well. The manage account here, just so you know, is the standard manage account stuff. So if you need to change your email or billing information, that sort of stuff, kind of standard at that point. So the academy itself, to kind of run down the value here, the courses, the Ask Instructor support, the on-demand workshop library, the Winner Circle community, you get access to every single course that's available back there. So we don't limit anything. You get access to everything, including all the updates. The Ask an Instructor support, you get access to that. You can ask as many questions as you want. There is no limit to the amount of questions that you are able to ask back there. So we have people sometimes that are like, I feel bad asking so many questions. Please ask questions. The instructors actually like that more. It's a dirty little secret, but it's true. The instructors love the people who ask more questions because they know that those people are learning. Those students are learning. So please ask questions back there. The on-demand workshop library, again, 24/7 access. There are hundreds and hundreds of workshops that are back there in this database, completely searchable. New ones added at just about every single week. The on-demand workshop library is back there for you. And of course, the Winner Circle community. You get access to essentially what is a private club of measurement marketers and those learning measurement marketing that you have access to. So all told, you have approximately $15,000 in training and support that you get access to as an academy member. And technically it goes a little bit higher each and every week because we keep adding content to this platform. Again, our job is not to overwhelm, it's to help, to make sure that you build skills, that you build your own measurement muscle. That is what the academy is there for. So with that, it's officially that time. It's our job to ask you to join the Measurement Marketing Academy. And of course, to do that, just go to measure.tips/get academy. It'll take you to the most current available offers for the Measurement Marketing Academy. And we look forward to having you a part of the Measurement Marketing Academy soon. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. This has been Getting Started. What is Server-Side Google Tag Manager and do you need it now? Thanks again for watching this workshop. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.